Hello, today's lecture is devoted to classroom management. At the end of this topic, you will be able to manage your classroom with different approaches and activities, also use various effective classroom settings, know about TTT and STT, and give good teaching instructions. So what is classroom management? So the skills of creating and managing a successful class is a key point of the teaching. So classroom management includes grouping and the setting, which means forming grouping, for example, singles, pairs, groups, or mingle or plenary, then arranging and the rearranging seating, also deciding where you'll stand or sit as a teacher, reforming class as a whole group after activities. The next one is activities. So activities include sequencing activities. When you finish, when you start, for example, setting up activities, giving instructions, monitoring activities, timing activities, and bringing activities to an end. Also, when we talk about classroom management, we talk about authority. So that means gathering and holding attention, deciding who does what. For example, answer a question, make a decision, and also establishing or relinquishing authority as appropriate, and also getting someone to do something. The next part is critical moments. When you start the lesson, when you deal with unexpected problems, and maintaining appropriate discipline in your classroom, and finishing the lesson. Also, when you manage your classroom, tools and techniques are also important. Whether you are using the board and other classroom equipment and aids, such as, for example, ICQ or whiteboard, using gestures to help clarify of instructions and explanation. For example, listening, you see I'm using my gestures, for example, attention, something like that. And also speaking clearly at an appropriate volume and speed, use of silence, grading, for example, the complexity of language, also grading quantity of language. The next one is working with learners. So spreading your attention evenly and appropriately, not, for example, looking at one learner. You have to, just look around. And also using intuition to gauge what students are feeling, eliciting honest feedback from students, and really listening to students. So classroom management. So classroom management involves decisions and also actions. So the actions are what is done in the classroom. For example, rearrange the chairs, and the decisions about whether to do these actions, when to do them, how to do them, and who will do this. So, for example, looking at classroom events, minute by minute, options, finding options, which includes, making decisions between one option and another. Sometimes, for example, pair works, work well, and sometimes instead of pair work, you can do it, for example, group work. And the third one is actions, doing the chosen actions. So classroom interaction, the way that teachers talk to students, the manner in which they interact with them is one of the crucial teaching skills. So classroom interaction involves whole class working together with the teacher, and also whole class moving around and mixing together as individuals we call it mingling. Small groups, 3 to 8, for example, people, pair work, and the individual work. So teaches instructions. There are 2 general rules for giving instructions. They must be kept as simple as possible. I have already mentioned in my previous lectures. For example, would you mind opening the page of your book number 15? No, it doesn't work. So with elementary level, you just say, open page 15, please. That's it. So the second one is instructions must be logical. They should be connected with the activities. So, for example, when a teacher gives instructions, it is important to check that the students have understood what they are being asked to do. This can be achieved either by ICQ, which means instruction checking questions, or by getting someone to show the other people, in the class how the exercise works. For example, match the words with definitions. Work in pairs, you have 10 minutes. Do we match the words with definition? Are we working alone or with our pair? Or how long are you going to do it? All these strategies are called ICQ, instruction checking questions. Or for example, when you model, Alina, please show how to do this exercise. So next part is teacher talking time. In short, we say TTT, and the student talking time, STT. How much time teacher should talk? The more time teacher spends talking, the less time is available for your students to speak. So, and therefore, please remember that teacher talking time should be only 20%, and the students talking time should be only 80%. Actually, I say not only, but 80% approximately. So learn to reduce teacher talking time. Record your teaching or get a colleague to make notes. Find out how much time of the class involves you talking. You may be surprised. So what are the ideas of increasing STT? So encourage a friendly, relaxing learning environment. Ask your students rather than giving explanations. Allow time for students to listen, think, process their answers and speak. Also, really listen to what they say. Allow thinking time without talking over it. And also increase opportunities for student talking time. Use gestures to replace unnecessary teacher talk. Allow students to finish their own sentences and make use a pair or small group to maximize STT. Also arrange, setting so that students can see and talk to each other. So encourage interaction between students rather than only between, for example, student and the teacher. Get students ask questions, give explanations, for example, use gestures and facial expressions instead of, talking. So here I have given, setting arrangements and generally used and applied in EFL teaching. So setting arrangements, as you can see here, circle one. So it is really very good when they, discuss or debate something. Next one is square. And the next setting arrangement is called horseshoe. And this is really very good when you arrange time to time, your classroom, because it somehow engages and involves your students in teaching process in general. Thank you for your attention.